Dither Boy just got another giant upgrade in our new 6.1 update, and in this video I'll be showing you some of the new big features and systems we added, all 100% free for any existing Dither Boy users. There's quite a lot in this update, so I won't be able to cover every single little thing, and if you'd like to go and just discover it for yourself, I will leave a link both to Dither Boy and for how to update Dither Boy underneath this video. But I'm already in 6.1 here, so I will just get going showing you what's new. When you load it up, it's mostly familiar, but you will notice there is a new way to get started now. We've got this little create canvas UI. So when you get started, you can just import a file like before, or you can go to File, New Project, and Blank Canvas or Import File. But if you want to get started quickly, it is all here in the regular sidebar waiting where it was before. So I'm going to go for 1080 by 1440 because that is the standard size for Instagram now, and I'm just going to hit create canvas, and we just get a black empty workspace that loads in with no image, but we've got dithering controls, but there's obviously nothing to dither just yet. And you'll notice here on the left there is a new toolbar, so you've got the little hand icon for panning around the canvas, or you've got the arrows for moving things around the canvas. So if we bring in something to actually move by clicking on the little plus arrow and going to media layer, you'll see on the media layers tab you get all the controls on a slider, or if you use the select and move tool you can just move it around yourself. So it's up to you what you prefer here. This is a control you are all probably very familiar with, so I'm not going to spend too much time on this. So from here, if we switch from our media layer back to our dithering layer and click on category and scroll all the way down, you'll see there is a new category called scripts layer. Now, scripts layer was a whole separate app that we were going to put out for ASCII artwork. And if you don't know, ASCII is very visually similar to dithering, though it uses like a different process. It renders your artwork out into characters, so letters, numbers, symbols, from a font. So if you click on scripts layer, it will ask you if you want to enter scripts layer. This is just because the settings in all of the scripts layer effects are different to Dither Boy. So if you're in like a regular dither that's Floyd Steinberg and you switch to an Atkinson dither, you will probably be able to keep some of the same sliders, and so the settings will stay the same. But when you move over into scripts layer, none of your settings will come with you from the actual dither effect. So it just gives you a little warning about that. When scripts layer loads up, you will notice that there are some new controls here at the top. If you want to, you can go into settings, click on general, and enable the scripts layer theme with the scripts layer logo, and you can toggle on this readable mono font. And you can use the medieval theme, because originally when we were going to put out scripts layer, we were going to make it a medieval themed software. But if you just want to use it as Dither Boy, then you can just do that in the regular Dither Boy default theme. You don't have to use it as scripts layer. Enabling all this stuff doesn't restrict your access to the other effects or like Dither Boy's animation system. It is literally just the scripts layer effects in Dither Boy. So by choosing scripts layer, you're not losing anything. You're just changing from dithering to ASCII. So in ASCII mode, with just a normal default, quite boring, quite flat effect going, one of my favorite things that you can do in scripts layer is come up to export, change from PNG to TXT, and you can get what will at first look terrible, but when expanded to the correct width, the actual ASCII in characters for your artwork. Now, what you might notice is that the background of my Dither Boy work or my scripts layer work appears to be black, whereas in the TXT file, there are dollar signs there. That is because the full ASCII set has the dollar sign here assigned to the darkest color. So if we tick transparent background, you will now see the correct rendering where there is no black backdrop that flattens out the black character. So now if you change from TXT to PNG, and hit export, and if I pull that in here, you've now got the actual text file and the actual PNG from the ASCII, because obviously the main difference in the TXT file is very simple text files like this, like you can go in and add color. But if we pick like the beak here of this dragon griffin type medieval character I've got open, you can see here all the end of like the beak is made up of these squared brackets, and it is the same. I can't zoom in the TXT file, but it is the same in the TXT file as well. So you're getting the same thing, just rendered out differently, which to me is really valuable because because if you are doing like a client project or something for your own brand, your own logo or your own image, you can get a TXT version, a black and white PNG with real transparent background. And then once you're done with that, if you come back in, you can use your Dither Boy color palettes, like these cyberpunk ones, alongside all of the regular pre-existing Dither Boy effects like epsilon glow or chromatic aberration to create like what might end up being, I suppose, like your main piece of artwork from this, whereas the other two are just like supporting components. If you wanted to inject some characters into your ASCII, you could come in and, like, if I type Studio AAA, it's a little bit hard to see that coming through the full ASCII. So if I change to a simpler palette, a simpler set of characters, sorry. So if we go all and I switch to, if you see how the full ASCII is so big that my Studio AAA characters are just not as visible through this character set. So if I go to binary, where it's just ones and zeros, and type Studio AAA, you'll see now that almost the entire image will be made up of the characters from what I've typed in. And if I'm not happy, we have got this character offset slider. So if I start moving the character offset slider, like if I rotate first to slashes and dashes, which you can see here is // line separator dash underscore equals and then plus. If I wanted to knock that order in along by one, you can use the character offset to do that. So that helps me arrive at this one, which is basically rendering out my whole image in just the line separators at this brightness. Now, at this point, if you set up an effect that you really like, but you want to apply it to a new image, ordinarily you would come to presets, you would save it, you would go file, clear, and then you would load in a new image and you would apply that preset to the new image. But in Dither Boy 6.1, you can just click plus, media layer, load in a new media layer, and it'll come in underneath your dithering and it will live on top of the previous one that you imported. So you can now continue to tweak and iterate upon the ASCII effect that you'd set up, but just on the new image. Now that brings me to the newly revamped stack tab. So if you come here to these stacked layers, you can see here I've got my skull image, I've got that black and white dragon vector I had in before, then I've got epsilon glow at the top, chromatic aberration, and then my ASCII effect. If I want to toggle off the skull, I can just click on the skull's layer icon and it will be invisible in the pipeline in the stack. Same for epsilon glow. So if I want to turn the glow off here, I can click that, turn off the chromatic aberration, and I can even turn everything off and just start importing new stuff and starting from scratch. So I am now going to go file and clear, and I'm going to import something a little bit more complex in terms of color. And I'm also just going to switch back to dithering. I'll also change out of the script slayer theme just so it's appropriate because we're back and dithering again. So one of the main complaints that people have had with me personally, because this was my idea and it was my system, was the color system in Dither Boy, making it difficult for you to replicate one-to-one color from an image into a dither. So if I just quickly change back actually to original, you can see I've picked this one because it's deliberately quite a difficult image to nail the color on when you're recoloring it. This cat has some white sections, it's got like a white chin, and it's got like the ginger here around its nose, green eyes, kind of muddy greens and browns and black in the background as well. So it's like, it's not a very easy image to recolor. So if we go back to any algorithm really and go to source, you can see that it kind of fails to do the job on more complex images like this. What you might have noticed then when I was just clicking through is underneath source, there is now full spectrum as a category. If I click this one, there are all sorts of different options and you can pick whichever one matches best to your image, but these are all designed for color matching and actually recreating the colors in your image into the actual dither. We've also got this little perceptual match option. So perceptual match will alter the dithering algorithm, but it will do it in a way that encourages the color matching. So if you're going for what I usually create with Dither Boy, which is like the more glitchy artwork, stuff that's a bit more abstract and not aiming to replicate color, I wouldn't use perceptual match for things like that. But if we toggle it on here, you will get some better results. Now, when I said that you can pick which one matches best, obviously for this image of the cat, something like this low contrast palette doesn't work the best. But if I choose the balanced color one, that one fits this one a little bit better, or even this deep shadows one fits even better than the last Obviously, I'm using the Ostromokov dither here, so we've got the error strength slider. If I lower the error strength all the way down, you'll get even better color matching. Obviously, if I turn the error strength up, it's going to look awful. Ostromokov is going to lean into the errors more than other dithering algorithms. So if I go to like Floyd Steinberg, you probably get slightly better colors even. So there we go. Like if I lower the luminance threshold from Floyd Steinberg, it works, and you've got basically as close to one-to-one colors as I think as you can ask for, really. Now, this part of the video is not scripted. I just loaded up a random image there. So like I said before, because you can now just add in more images, if I go plus and do media layer and load this one in, which I will just need to scale up a little bit. Obviously, the deep shadows color palette doesn't quite work for this one. So if we continue just rotating around, you will land on something that works a little bit better with maybe a different luminance threshold like this. So a balanced color. Then if we come into the pipeline or the stack tab and just disable this one and go back, in this case it does work, but I was trying to make the point that you kind of have to find the match here in these palettes. There will be a palette that works for your image, but it is not just a match colors tick box exercise. With a fresh image loaded, I'm going to show you the remaining 2 places we've added some stuff and changed some stuff. So here I've got just a stupid little poster design that I created. And if I go to plus to add an effect and come down to subtexture, this is a brand new effect that can go before your dithering or after it. I would recommend putting it after it while you learn how it works, and then before it once you know like what you're doing with it. But this will allow you to tile very, very small texture files across your whole image. So the very basic one to show you would be the scan line. If we zoom in after that's been applied, you'll see that the image is not quite, but it's being given the effect as though it's being divided up into these scan lines like a screen. You can up the opacity and change the blend mode to make it more harsh or more apparent or more subtle, and you can rotate the pattern or scale it downward to force something called interpolation. Now, if you've been watching my content for a while, I've mentioned this and I've been kind of dying to get something with interpolation into Dither Boy because it's one of my favorite visual artifacts to exploit. Interpolation is just a way of saying approximation or a guess. So this little tiled texture of the scan line is, I believe this one is 16 by 16. So when we have it at scale 0, the pattern is being given 16 pixels in each repetition. As we scale it down, it's given less and less space. And so we use interpolation. This is present in basically every software that you'll use, probably other than 3D software, where we have to like do some guesswork to work out what that would look like. So at only a little bit of scaled down, you'll see that, obviously I don't know how this comes through on the screen recording, but you'll see that there's almost like a wave effect to it, where in some areas it's more apparent than others. So basically, as you attempt to simplify this scanline effect, it turns into a new pattern. This is true of all the other ones as well. So if we go to the RGB rosette and let's change the blend mode back to multiply and turn the opacity down a little bit. This one's a little bit bigger. I think this is 128 pixels maybe, but if we scale this down now, it starts to almost form these little blurry red, green and blue cells. You can turn up or down the interpolation slider, and you can change the interpolation method. This will give you varying results, and while these results are subtle and they're not worlds apart, if we set up like color dodge on the RGB tile, we up the intensity a little bit, and then we come back into our dither settings, having set that up, and zoom out. Let's just apply like a pretty normal dither Ostromokov, and we'll go for like a cyberpunk palette, and we'll just up the brightness a little bit, and then pull in epsilon glow and zoom back in. Now we've got something actually dithered, and then start playing with the subtexture effect. By combining the two, you get these little color glitches that sort of, obviously I'm only throwing this together in a tutorial to show you how this works, so don't shout at me if you're a CRT enthusiast, but it sort of gives that effect or that impression, or it's in that genre of visual. Looks a little bit weirder on the text here, so maybe you'd go for something different, but basically subtexture is going to let you repeat these patterns throughout your image before or after the dither. So if you look before the dither, it kind of starts messing with everything really, no matter what setup you put in, and it becomes a little bit harder to predict. But that is one of the two new effects. Now I'm gonna have to import a different one to show you the diffraction stars effect. So this is honestly quite a niche effect, and you're definitely not going to be able to just slap the diffraction stars effect on any Dither Boy project. So I'm going to load up something I created recently from a preset, which is this effect. I put these out on the community page if you would like to get a hold of them. They're these presets that generate this very specific type of effect. So you can see here along this line of orange, there are points where the pixel turns white and the epsilon glow is particularly strong there, or it creates this beam that only is along one axis. If I turn off epsilon glow and bring in the diffraction stars effect, and I just lower the threshold and up the intensity to pick up sort of a similar part of the image, this version of the effect, and I've done it like quite intentionally blown out here just so that it's very obvious what's happening, will, instead of just rendering the one-dimensional one-axis version of this that epsilon glow often gives you, it will allow you to control the spike count on the stars as well as the scale, blur and intensity. So diffraction stars is good for bringing in when you've got an obvious, quite exclusive highlight that is only really in part of the image, and you would like to render a glow effect that is gonna give you stars in your image. Obviously this isn't tweaked to perfection, so I would quite like to get rid of these ones in the middle or just have it so that there was fewer stars, but this isn't a tutorial. I'm just showing you how the effect works, so I'm gonna have to leave that there. I'm gonna do a separate version of this video for video and animation features. So if you are here just for the video and animation updates, there are improvements to both of those systems, but I'm going to leave that for the next video. Big thank you to everyone who supports us and supports Dither Boy, recommends Dither Boy, anyone who's told a friend about Dither Boy, posted about it online, mentioned it in your captions, or made a video on it yourself, or anything like that. These updates would be impossible to do without all your help. And a special shout out to Kinna, my friend Kinna, who designed the medieval theme. I'm probably going to do a video with her about this. Like I said at the beginning, I will leave links to Dither Boy and to how to get updated underneath this video. If you haven't got Dither Boy yet, there is really never a better time than now. There is still another update coming, and we've just added loads more stuff. This year so far, we've done 2 giant updates to Dither Boy. So if you've not checked Dither Boy out in a while, like since December, it's completely different now and definitely worth a look. But thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.